Buongiorno.
Hi there. Grüezi wohl.
We're here at Voxxed Ticino. I'm talking to Martin.
Yes.
Do you go by any other names?
No, I think that's pretty much it. The unicorn, for obvious reasons, maybe sometimes.
I thought you might have an alias, so...
Well, okay, fair enough. I have an alias on Twitter. I'm Geekonaut, so you might have heard me on Geekonaut rather than Martin.
Oh, okay, there we go. See, I don't know why I thought you would have named yourself.
I don't know. The Geekonaut thing is basically like, because I'm floating between different communities and different technologies, and I keep doing pretty much everything a bit. So I'm like an astronaut because it's a vast space of technology that I'm navigating. So it's like...
You said you started as a game developer, but you're talking about web components. So how did you get from one to the other?
Right. First things first, I have to clarify that I was never a professional game developer. I did it on my free time. Because I had a really boring computer graphics lecture in university. If that happens, just build games, because that teaches you all the things about real-time 3D graphics. And that was interesting, but there's a huge problem with that, which is you build a game for instance, a game console or a computer, but then only certain people can play it. Not everyone in my social circles is a gamer, so they're not interested in games, and if they're not having a Windows PC, then my stuff didn't work anymore. And generally, I just like the web because it allows everyone to build their own thing and share content and share their knowledge. And that's like super interesting. And I think it's an important thing to do for us as a society, even though web today is also used to actually share a lot of bile and hatred and stuff. And that's not so good. That's terrible, actually.
Well, it makes it truly democratic.
It is, yeah, it is democratic. But it shows us that we have fundamental democratic issue or societal issues that we have to actually address. But we're digressing. So I went into web. I'm like, how does the web work? And I started building websites and then web apps and then hybrid apps, which were a thing before we had actual like proper React Native or something like that. I did a bit of embedded programming for renewable energy research.
Cool.
So yeah, that was interesting as well. So I do a bit of everything, kind of.
And so web components, why are they important to you?
So web components to me are important because I think, so the web gives us a really nice platform, even though a lot of people would disagree, but the platform is like super resilient, and HTML is why it is so resilient. And because if there's something that the browser doesn't understand, it just skips it or just dumps the text instead of just crashing. I mean, if you have an iPhone app that is not compatible with your iPhone version somehow, it doesn't even install anymore, right? If you have a Windows application on a Windows 95 application that you try to run on XP or 7 or 10, Windows 10, it crashes. And you're like, what the hell? Doesn't happen. If I open the first website that was ever created, it still displays. It looks terrible. It's black text with blue links on white ground. Still, I can use it. I can click the link. It takes me somewhere. I can read everything that there was, and like all the knowledge that was stored there, I can still retrieve and work with. But we have evolved. We are now building applications. So the web has evolved from a document platform and a document sharing platform into an application platform. However, because making this resilient and large is like we have lots of browsers, we have lots of environments that we have to work in. Accessibility is a big concern. Yeah. How about people who can't use the web without assistive technology? It starts with like zooming a page. Lots of mobile pages do not allow you to zoom. If you do that, I'll hunt you down. And yeah, so the web has not evolved, or the platform has not evolved to give us tools for this kind of stuff. And that's why a lot of developers have switched to proprietary platforms such as iOS or Windows Phone or Android, because they give them the components and the bits and pieces to actually build applications, because they have been started as an application platform. We have now another platform. The web has evolved into an application platform. And at some point, the browsers went, or the standards body, the W3C behind it went, you know what? We should give people the low-level primitives, the low-level measures to actually build new things on the platform, because we can't evolve as quickly as the market does. And you can see that we have things like toggle buttons. There's no such thing as a toggle button in HTML itself, right? You can't have that, like these little toggles. It doesn't exist. Tabs, popovers, dialogues, VR rendering, all that kind of stuff, all that is missing, really. And so we now have decided that we have to have primitives that allow basic building blocks to allow developers to build these components. Developers have done that. I mean, jQuery UI is a thing. Dojo Toolkit is a thing. MooTools is a thing. They allow you to have fake components based on JavaScript. And it was really hacky because it has to work around all the things that the platform doesn't do. Now the platform gives us a way to do this in a cleaner, faster, nicer way. That's what web components are. And I'm like, this is what we need. If we want to succeed as an application platform on the web, we have to have components. And we have the developers that want to build components, but we can't. So we should really let developers build the platform forward. And then when we see certain patterns arise, if we figure out that the dreaded hamburger menu is a thing that everyone uses all the time, after 5 years, we could potentially try to get it into the browser directly, so we don't have to build our own components. But for now, we have to build our own components to figure out how this all works. Yeah. So web components enable that, and I think that's very powerful.
Cool. And how do you build in You mentioned accessibility. How do you build in accessibility to your web components?
That's a really good question, and a tricky one. Actually, it's not that tricky. So basically, the thing is with components, the biggest problem with components, how we did it 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, or even today sometimes, with MooTools and jQuery UI or Bootstrap, Twitter Bootstrap, super popular. Every template, every site template that you can download for your blog has it. And what they do is they have div, class, button. The problem with that is that the browser sees this and goes, this is a block of text. But there's JavaScript on top of it that somehow kind of makes it look and behave like a button, but it's not a button. And then there's the button element, and that is a button. So it tells the browser, hi, I'm a button. I can be toggled and triggered. And when I, as a developer, think of a button, oh yeah, sure, I click on it and then it does something. But that's not the full truth, right? Because if I'm a screen reader user, I use space or return to press the button. I want to tab over things, and I can't tab over buttons that are not pretending to be buttons, and or just pretending to be buttons rather than actually being buttons. So buttons behave in a certain expectable and dependable way that divs don't. And that's because they're for two different purposes. So with web components, if you are careful enough, you're extending really existing things that the platform already has. So if I have a toggle button, I would use a button. So in Internet Explorer 6 will display a button. But if I'm on a modern browser or a browser that the polyfill works in, so i.e. 10 upwards, for instance, I would then not see the button. I would see a toggle thing that I can toggle, and that looks nice, and it does all the things. But if I'm on a screen reader, I still see the button, and I would go like, with my screen reader, I go through the text, and then it says, button, activate, night mode, disabled. And then you press return or press space, and it goes, button, enable night mode, enabled. And that's accessible, and that people can use and work with this. And that's how you do it.
Cool.
You can write components that are inaccessible, sure, but now you have a chance to not do that, and it's easier.
Where does the unicorn come in?
The unicorn comes in 2 years ago, I think. In Montreal, I met a brilliant person who's also a speaker here, and I think she's going to be on interview as well. Hi, Miriam. How's it going? And she's my onesie consultant now. So and she proposed to get me a onesie, and I'm like, I want a unicorn onesie because they look so fluffy and nice and warm and cozy.
Do you have the urge to hug you? I don't know you that well, but I feel like I should hug you.
Yes, you can also just like, it's fluffy, isn't it?
Yeah,
isn't it amazing?
I was trying to hold myself back.
Yes, it's fine. No, actually, I had a colleague of mine at work, and she went when she saw me in the onesie in the office one day. She goes, "Can I touch your horn?" And I'm like, "Sure, go ahead, touch it." And I'm like, "Oh," and then she's like, "Oh, it's so fluffy and it's so nice." And I'm like, "I know, right?" And yeah, my onesie consultant, I can highly recommend her. And I'm like, "Can you get me one?" And she's like, "Yes, but you have to do a talk in it." I'm like, "All right." So that's what happened.
I see. I like it. Okay.
And then obviously people here, because Twitter is global, everyone here went like, "Why you're not in the onesie? Why don't you do this here?" And I'm like, I can, I guess. And last year in Zurich, I think it was last year. Yes, it was last year. I did it, and I came in the onesie, but I wasn't a speaker. I was part of the program committee for Voxxed Days Zurich. Hi, Voxxed Days Zurich. And everyone loved it, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. And then when I was invited to speak here in Ticino, I'm like, why not?
Yeah, I think you're very recognizable.
Definitely. It's also an icebreaker.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes.